Hello and welcome to CS230 Web Information Processing, and welcome again to this short series of lessons on CRUD-based access of a NodeJS REST API using jQuery. This is lesson 4, and here we're going to look at how we might access this REST API that we generated with Node.js using Insomnia and Postman. So actually we're not going to use jQuery this time, but I'm going to show you how you could how you can develop and test an API which you will consume later using jQuery. But if you don't want to be writing those forms and writing the jQuery and all of that work, if you're working on developing your backend service, then you can use tools like Insomnia and Postman, which are essentially the same kind of tool in order to be able to make the HTTP requests, the post request, the GET requests. So let's see how we might use those. But let's first of all go back to our code, and we can see the code we're working with. This is our Ajax API database demo for CS230. And again, it's a very straightforward Node.js app that's used to develop an API. It doesn't use a framework like Express to do this. It just uses the HTTP module, the URL module, the query string module, and this file system module just for reading files. So it's it's a vanilla application. It's very straightforward. We have a couple of two roots really. We have the root, the slash root, and we have the slash API slash user root. And if we, this by default, of course, is a GET request, and it doesn't matter what, as long as we're just calling root, we just give them the index.html, which allows us to fill in the forms. And of course, and we would do that if we're accessing with a browser, of course. And with this particular API slash user root, we're going to make a post request, or we're going to make, which we use for sending forms, and they're going to be just an XWWW form URL encoded, or just a URL encoded form. And we might also want to send JSON. We didn't do that with the app single page app that we developed. Second thing we want to do is we want to be able to handle GET requests. So in addition to the post request. So again, on the same root slash API slash user. So let's see how we would do this using some tools. So first and foremost, of course, we have to get our app up and running. So it's not running, so let's do this. So now, yes, our app is running quite happily here. So that's fine. So let's so we know it works. Well, let's check it works. Okay, let's add something. Let's go to our form and let's add something. So it wasn't running, so now it should be running here. Start it up. It's going fine. And so let's add in. So let's add in some data. Oh God, John's been added to the database. Okay, so don't need to. I was a bit too clicky there. So let's kill it and start it again, so that we don't have data in here. Well, look, it's okay. It's okay. Data was sent. Ideally, we should have some validation on this. And it's a good time to make this point that we want to do some validation and we can make that work. So let's try it again and not be too overly clicky this time. Okay, and we have John at here.com. Let's click this, send the data. So now we know it's added to the database. Let's get rid of the modal. Let's get the database, and we see that we have this erroneous data here, and we have this record, and we have this record here. So we know it's fine, it works fine. So now, what we want to do is be able to, let's quickly see that it's all fine by just having a look here. Yes, so the data came and everything was working just fine. So now let's have a look at how we might use Insomnia and Postman to do this. So I'm going to use Insomnia first, and you can look at the Insomnia app. And really what happens here is it allowed us to be able to build API requests. So the first thing I'd like to do, of course, and we can create GET requests, post requests, put requests, delete, all of these HTTP verbs we can use. Send them to this particular one. We can add data as we want in order to make it work. So the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to make a GET request. So let's get rid of this piece first and make a GET request to the service that's running on 8000. And unsurprisingly, it's sending us back the response, which is to load that file, which is what we wanted to be able to do. But then we want to just test the API. So let's have a look at getting the API. So we saw /get/API /user, which is, what we wanted to send. We can send this GET request, and we get the data back, which is not surprising, okay? And you can see on the left, we can see the request as the requests were made. So now we want to be able to simulate using a form. So we can do that also using Insomnia or Postman, which I'll show you a little bit later. So let's now set up a post request. We click post. So we know that our form has, again, we're sending a post request to this, service, and we're using this root /API/user. So let's simulate the form. So we're creating a form. I've got a form here, and I'm specifically saying that it's a URL encoded form. I could do multi-part forms if I want to upload files, and we can all sorts of other queries as well. We could send JSON, all that kind of stuff. But for now, we want this regular form. So let's create first name, and we'll set the value to be Joe. We create a new surname. So these are the fields that we would have in our form. And we know the fields because we understand them and we know what's expected. We can see them over here, So blogs, and we want to send an email, and we say, unsurprisingly, Joe is here. Okay, so these are the three fields that we set up. So we've simulated creating a form. Now we want to send this using post to the service. And we get this message back, as we would have expected to see that this is the data that's sent back from the API. It received the data. You can see it received it here. You probably saw the scroll happening as we worked. And we saw that the content type that was received was this URL encoded here. So it all worked just fine. So now we can actually do another GET request here. And we make a GET, we send this. It ignores this, okay? Ignores the body because GET requests don't use that form. And we can see that the information that we sent was in the data field, and we got a notification here as well from our service. So that's nice. Okay, that works very nice for us, and we can just create any kind of form we like with it, writing any HTML, and it's a nice way to test and build your API. So now let's have a look at this other version, Postman. So here we have Postman, and it works the exact same way. You can see a little bit more busy in terms of the interface, a lot more controlled. Again, we're sending something to this particular host here. And let's make the GET request first, okay? I did it earlier, but it wasn't running, so it was refused. So if I make my GET request, I expect to get the information back that I had earlier. So we were able to do this, and we can see that here's the information. So it's just another tool that allows us to be able to do the same kind of request. I'm just showing you both tools. You can do everything with Insomnia that you can do with Postman and vice versa, that you'll need to do for your API development and testing. So let's look at making a post request now. So we'll have a post request here. And again, we could put in the keys and values as well. But let's see if we could change the body in some way so that we could do something else. Okay, so we want to make a post request to this. And now we want to send some JSON. And I've pre-made the JSON here, okay? So I've said that, I've clicked on body, post to the service, and I'm sending JSON. So I'm not sending a form data, I'm just sending JSON data, okay? I'm going to send this by clicking the send button. And now James Blog's data has been added to the database. We got the same message back as we had previously. So now let's do another GET request to see what's happening with the database. We'll do this GET request. It ignores the body this time because GET requests don't have a body. Let's send this. And now we have our data back, and we can see the information was scrolled here actually, so we know it's been sent. And we can confirm that James Blogs was also added to the database. Okay, simple tools. They can be complex, of course, but it's straightforward usage of tools like Insomnia or Postman in order to make API requests to our service that we've developed and written, in this case in Node.js, but it could be written in any language you like. It could be Python, Flask there, we could be using with PHP. It doesn't matter, So, but it also means that we can develop our backends and, develop all the solutions without actually having to develop these forms at the front ends. Okay? And it's a useful skill to know and use, and it's appropriate here. So once we've this done, then we can start working with our jQuery and develop these front ends. It also means that we can decide on what the API will be, and we could have one developer developing all the front end stuff, and then the back end developer doing all the back end stuff, and the back end developer can still check and work and make sure that everything is working before we actually connect the two together. Okay, thank you very much for watching. That was a very, very short lesson on CRUD-based access of a NodeJS REST API using jQuery, except this time we didn't use jQuery. We used Insomnia and Postman. Thank you very much for watching.